Hello, everyone, and welcome to McGill Cares, a webcast series supporting family and informal caregivers of people living with dementia. I'm Claire Webster, a former caregiver, certified dementia care consultant, and founder of McGill University's Dementia Education Program. I work with a dynamic team of leading healthcare professionals to oversee the program, who include geriatrician Professor José Moret and Dr. Serge Gauthier, Professor Emeritus in the Departments of Neurology and Psychiatry. McGill Cares is supported by the Amelia Saputo Community Outreach for Dementia Care. The McGill University Dementia Education Program offers a comprehensive range of free multilingual resources to educate and support people who are living with dementia, their families and caregivers, healthcare students, and healthcare professionals and medical students. We invite you to visit our website at mcgill.ca/dementia, where you can access our educational guides, online courses, activity videos, virtual support groups, and much, much more. So I'm so glad that you could join us today for this important conversation with Dr. Julia Chabot on the benefits of music for people living with dementia. And I feel that it's just so appropriate because as we're entering the holiday season, to have something really positive for families to engage with a loved one living with dementia. So Dr. Chabot is a geriatrician at St. Mary's Hospital Center, an associate professor in the Department of Medicine at McGill University, and the new president of the Association for Geriatricians in the province of Quebec. During her master's degree in psychology at the University of Montreal, she completed a study on the effects of music on the health of hospitalized geriatric patients. During this episode of McGill Cares, Dr. Chabot will discuss the potential benefits of using music as a therapeutic tool for people living with dementia. She will also explore practical approaches for integrating music into clinical care settings and recommend ways for caregivers to introduce music at home to support daily routines and foster emotional connections. Welcome to McGill Cares, Dr. Chabot.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
So if you can just please begin, because we know each other personally, and I'm just so impressed by you as a young geriatrician who is so passionate about your work with helping seniors. If you could just begin by sharing your role as a geriatrician and what led you to focus so deeply on dementia care.
I fell in love with geriatric medicine actually as a medical student, and it's a bit of a funny story because as a medical student we rotate in geriatrics, and I did my rotation in geriatrics at St. Mary's Hospital where I am now working. And I loved the very personalized approach that we have with patients in geriatric medicine, where it's a lot of the focus is also based on what matters to the patient. And I really like this holistic approach of, yes, there's the medical aspect, there's also the psychosocial aspect, there's the cognitive aspect. So there was a bit of a mix of neurology, internal medicine, psychiatry. So I really like doing a little bit of everything. And obviously in my practice as a geriatrician, most of the patients that I see suffer from dementia or neurocognitive disorders, and it's a privilege to be able to accompany these people throughout this journey. Not an easy journey as we can imagine, but I think one of the things that I really like is that the journey doesn't stop the day that we have a diagnosis. And there is still a lot of things that we can work on. There's a lot of what we call residual capacities. And I think music is one of the things that we can use to try to bring up all of the residual capacities that these people have.
So you yourself have a passion for music. So can you describe a bit of that?
So my previous life, before being a physician, I was a classical singer. I sang multiple years. And during my residency, in order to become a geriatrician, I did 3 years of internal medicine. During my residency in internal medicine, I had this idea that I wanted to bring music in the healthcare system. I was thinking, as a musician, when I play music, it makes me feel so good. And there's a reason, there's actually physiological reasons why this is happening. And I think it's not just good for the musician, but it's also very nice for the audience. There's a reason why we go to concert. There's a reason why if we're cooking, we'll put on some music. I mean, it's the holidays are coming up, so most of the people who are cooking around the holiday time will put Christmas songs on. So I thought about all of the possible benefits, all of the joy that music was bringing me. And I said, is there any way that we could bring this in the healthcare system? And to be very honest with you, Claire, initially I was thinking necessarily about the therapeutic use of music. I was more thinking about if it makes people feel better, I think it's going to be something very, very positive. But then as I started to look more into music and to look at the different studies that have been done and to really understand the scientific literature behind this, I realized that music was even stronger than what I thought, because it can be used to some degree as a therapeutic tool, including to reduce pain, to reduce anxiety, to improve well-being. And then it became not just the idea of bringing music in the healthcare system so that people would smile, but it became something a little bit stronger than that over the last few years.
So before we get into the music part, I just want to ask you, because you see patients and their family members on a daily basis at your clinic. Can you just share a little bit what you see as some of the biggest challenges that families face when a loved one is living with dementia? Like also particularly on the caregiver, because I love how you're talking about we need to really embrace what the person can still do, but it's hard when you first get that diagnosis, right? So what are you seeing in your clinic?
I think there's a lot of challenges that I can see on a daily basis. I would say initially the first time that I see patients, and often they are with their caregivers, and when we bring up the diagnosis, when we say the word for the first time, it's incredibly anxiety provoking for people. I even had patients tell me, I almost wish you had told me that I had cancer because with cancer, often there are possible treatments versus with dementia. People are very well aware that unfortunately we don't have magic bullet at this point. We're hoping that one day things are going to be different, but not currently. I also often hear patients telling me that they feel like it's almost the end of their life and that they're going to have to start to live with this. There's also a lot of negativity towards the diagnosis. And actually, I can give you a quick example. I have one of my patients who has Parkinson's disease dementia, and he constantly tell me I can accept that I have Parkinson's disease, but I'm so shy of saying the word dementia that when I speak with my family, when I talk with my friends, I talk about Parkinson's disease, but I don't want to talk about dementia. He feels guilty of having dementia. He almost feels like it's his fault. So it's a very, very difficult diagnosis that we come up with, and we really, really need to accompany families, patients through this process. Another big challenge that we see is that there's a lot of difficulties in terms of the caregivers. There's a lot of responsibilities that will fall on caregivers. They often feel that it is hard for them to communicate with their loved ones, especially when the loved one is starting to have word finding difficulties, is starting to forget the names of grandchildren, for example. It's very, very difficult. And by the way, music could be a nice way to communicate, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Um, and also with dementia, we often see behavioral issues that might happen. So people becoming aggressive, becoming paranoid, sometimes even having hallucinations. There's even cases where people will wonder, and it's not rare that I see caregivers, well, first of all, feeling overwhelmed with all of this, feeling guilty. They feel that it's their fault if there's behavioral issues, and I often tell families, unfortunately, it is part of the disease. It's not your mother, it's not your father that's doing this necessarily. It's the disease that's making them do this. So there's definitely a lot of challenges.
And I think that, there's a lot of difficulty finding meaningful activities, right? When I work with families, they often say, well, I don't know what to do with them. I don't, whether they're, especially even those people that are now in long-term care facilities so music can play an important role. So recently, you were one of the stars of a new documentary film, I would call it, really. And it's called J'ai souvenir encore. It's produced by Pamplemousse Media, and it's available on Ici Radio Canada 2 TV, TOUT.TV. Now, for those people who are Anglophones, even if you don't speak French, I think that if you're able to watch this documentary, you will appreciate the power of music. Julia, do you want to just say a few words about the film?
Oh yes, absolutely. It's been such a wonderful experience. It's a beautiful documentary where uh, they focus on patients who have neurocognitive disorders, who have dementia, and they look at what is the power of music, basically, what is the impact that music can have on them. What's been really, really wonderful throughout this experience is that they went in long-term care facilities. They went at home with a music therapist, meeting some people. They came to St. Mary's Hospital where we organized little concerts and we looked at the reaction of patients. We even did a little scientific demonstration of technology that I had never even used before to look at the movement. They even went to meet other scientists. So it's a very, very complete documentary where you can see what the impact of music is. And it's a nice combination also where they explain what is the scientific reasons where we're actually seeing this effect. And what I think they did beautifully well is that they really, really managed to present what is the person behind the disease, because we often will think about people with dementia as dementia, but it's not that. It's the person who has dementia. So we really, really present the person instead of the disease.
Well, I'm happy to have the trailer here, so let's watch it.
Bonjour, moi c'est France. Ça fait plaisir de vous rencontrer.
Comme des centaines de milliers de personnes, j'ai autour de moi des proches qui vivent avec l'Alzheimer ou encore avec des troubles neurocognitifs.
Ils commencent par perdre les mots, puis en plus de perdre les mots, ils perdent la mémoire.
On sait qu'il n'y a pas de traitement actuellement. Alors on cherche comment on peut enrichir leur environnement pour les aider. Et la musique, c'est le premier aspect qui va venir.
Est-ce que vous aimeriez venir au spectacle? Je pense que vous allez aimer ça.
Oui, bien d'accord.
Qu'est-ce qui fait qu'un proche se souvient pas de ton nom, se souvient pas que t'es passé 2 minutes après être parti, mais il ou elle est capable de chanter toutes les paroles d'une chanson? Je m'attendais pas à autant de réactions.
Pour mon trouble, là, la musique m'apaise beaucoup.
Tout à coup, ces personnes-là redeviennent elles-mêmes. Ça vous ramène le temps d'un moment, une identité.
C'est presque comme si on leur donnait une petite clé pour être capable d'aller ouvrir un tiroir.
Ces régions cérébrales qui vont répondre à la musique ne sont pas autant affectées par la maladie d'Alzheimer.
Quel est le pouvoir de la musique sur une maladie aussi dure que l'Alzheimer? Est-ce que ça pourrait être un moyen de communication efficace? Et si oui, comment on peut l'utiliser?
C'est un investissement. Ça devrait être avant la pilule puis le budget de pharmacie. Ça devrait être ça la première ligne, là.
How can music play a role in supporting the well-being of a person living with dementia? And tell us what you've witnessed. So what is it about music that brings the person literally alive?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I think the first thing that we need to take into consideration is that when we look at the generation of people who have neurocognitive disorders, often it's older people in general, not always, but in general. And music really, really played such an important role in their lives when they were younger. And you can imagine that people were constantly listening to the radio, for example, people were going to the concerts. And music has really a capacity which is very specific, that it can it can stimulate multiple parts of the brain at the same time. And there's not a lot of other activities or things that we can do where we're going to be able to stimulate multiple regions of the brain. So if we think that we're listening to music, often I always say it's a little shoulder dance that starts. Sometimes we start to move with the music. So this is stimulating everything that's motor with the music. We start to sing and we're thinking about words. So we're stimulating all of the language areas. We are also often, especially if it's a music that's significant for the person and if it's a music that they enjoy, if it's a type of music that they really like, it's also going to stimulate the reward system. The reward system is where we create the dopamine, where we have the pleasure, we have all sorts of neurotransmitters. This is also intimately connected to all of the memory parts of the brain so that we can stimulate older memories. And this is often, it's often the reason why people ask me, well, my mom doesn't even know my name. She forgot my name, but then she remembers every single word.
Well, that's what I find fascinating. I mean, when I watch the documentary, or, I'll share a clip about my mom later on, but they don't remember words, the names, but you're watching them, like they remember the words to the songs.
Exactly. And sometimes it's songs that I've heard and I don't even know by heart myself. It's pretty impressive. So, and I'm just giving a couple of examples of the different areas of the brains that can be stimulated. But really, music has this capacity to be able to do that, and it also stimulates. And we actually see in the documentary there's a lady at one point who's very, very somnolent, and the music starts, and then all of a sudden she wakes up. But yes, it can stimulate, but at the same time, it can also calm down. And I always tell people we auto-medicate ourselves with music. We don't even realize it, but when we're when we clean up our houses and our apartments, most of the time we'll put music on and we'll put some beat because we want to stimulate ourselves. If we're nervous or if we want to work and focus, then we're going to put a relaxing music. So the type of music that we will choose is really going to be a little bit different even for ourselves. So it's the same principle with people who have dementia. But all of that to say that it really has this capacity to stimulate multiple areas of the brain that other activities rarely have this capacity. In the literature, what has been proven is that it can improve well-being, it can decrease anxiety, it can even decrease pain, which is incredible because this is something that I do every single day. I prescribe medications for pain in my patients. And when you think that music maybe is releasing, we know that music is able to lead to the release of what we call endogenous opioids. So it's almost like little morphine that our brain is creating when we listen to music so that we feel less pain. We also know that music can decrease anxiety. There's been studies that demonstrated that if you sing as a choir, relaxing song, and if you test the cortisol level of the singers, it will decrease after they sang. So cortisol being our stress hormone, so we know that this also can decrease. So there's a lot of power that music has, and it's actually been proven. Where it becomes a little bit more tricky is that it's one thing to have the theory, but then how can we bring that in the clinical context? There's been a lot of studies about, in theory, it does this, we know it does that. In normal brain physiology, in a sense, these are the expected physiological responses. But then if we bring it up in patients who have neurocognitive disorders, we also see benefits, and this is where it becomes interesting. It also, and the other big thing that I find that music does is that it's almost bringing like a little key in terms of communication. And this is something that we see in the documentary. At one point, we have a man who, because we did a study with virtual reality and music, and I'm trying to discuss with him, and it's not going anywhere, to be honest. And then the music starts, and at the end, he started to talk to us about his youth in Italy and how music was so important. And it was bringing up a concept which is so important. It's the concept of reminiscence. So he even could remember part of himself, and it was so beautiful.
So, can you recommend some practical ideas for families to introduce music, perhaps at home? Because we know that in many assisted living facilities, fortunately, they bring in music therapists or recreation therapists, on hopefully on a regular basis. But what about those people now at home? How can they begin?
So, multiple different ways to do it. First of all, what I would recommend is that it's important to look at what is the taste of music. What is the music? What are the preference of the person? Classically, it's music that people listen to in their 20s. That's often that's if I can give you a good advice, go back to when people were in their 20s. It's interesting how there's actually studies that demonstrated that as we get older, we're listening less and less to different types of music. We constantly go back to the music in our 20s. So that would be my first piece of advice. Then there's multiple ways to use the music. So if you create a playlist, for example, it could simply be put on a phone, for example, or put on a speaker phone, or just put on a speaker. The other thing that we can do is that sometimes we can even find videos of previous concerts, for example. We can use we have the advantage to be able to use technology. Most of us have access to smartphones. So if you're going to visit your parent, for example, you can bring your phone and try to find videos of a concert of an artist that your loved one really, really enjoy, and watch it with them. And what I would encourage people to do is to try to initiate a discussion around that also, because you would be surprised at what people will be able to remember or give you stories. I had a case not too long ago where I listened to a song with one of my patients, and the patient started to say, "Oh, on one of my first dates, this song was playing," and then he started to tell me the entire history. It was really, really, it was a beautiful moment. The other thing that I would say is that so we're talking about recorded music. Any live music, we also know that the effect is exponential. So if people are able to go to a concert, if they are able to leave the house and to see live musicians, there's even a stronger impact. So I think people can definitely do a mix of those.
And I guess to encourage movement, right? So for those people that not only the music, but to get up and try to dance a bit, and right, the movement part is important.
Yeah, and I think the whole idea is to try to create this as an experience, and so that people can enjoy what they're doing. And for example, if you're gonna go have lunch with somebody who has dementia, why not putting some music in the background while you're eating at this? So maybe it's even going to improve the experience. And we know when we go to the restaurant, it's definitely part of the experience. There's a reason why they put nice music in the background. So we can recreate those types of things.
So I have a little video clip to show of my mother. This is actually a few months before she passed away. And one of my mother's favorite movies was The Sound of Music. And she was in a long-term care home where a musician came and was playing the song Edelweiss. So we're going to just run the clip so you see the impact that music had on her.
it's incredible to see what the power that a song can have on somebody, and I find it very, very interesting, Claire, because Edelweiss, I think, has a special meaning to a special meaning for a lot of people in that generation. A couple of years ago, we used to have on the geriatric unit at St. Mary's, we used to have live musicians that were coming in. Then COVID happened and we couldn't have live musicians, as you can imagine. But there was one evening when we had a violinist who started to play Edelweiss. And I think we had 5 or 6 patients that evening who were watching the mini concert. And there's a lady who started to cry as she listened to Edelweiss. And the man sitting next to her stood up. All of a sudden, he stood up. He left the room. And I remember being in the room and saying, why is he standing up? Why is he leaving in the middle of the song? And I couldn't understand. And he came back with a tissue that he gave to the lady next to him. Oh. And it was just so beautiful. You know, when we say that music can bring back these communication, these connections with people, so automatically he recognized the emotion, and it showed his incredible empathy. And it was a little miracle that happened on that day. So it was beautiful.
It truly is a very special song. Dr. Chabot, thank you so much for joining us today, and really for your incredible, like, true authentic passion towards caring for seniors, because it's you honestly, like, you're an outstanding doctor, and please don't lose your passion ever, with patients. So this webcast is an initiative of the McGill University Dementia Education Program, which is funded by private donations. If you would like to make a donation to our program or sign up to our newsletter in order to find out about all of our upcoming programs and new resources, please visit us at mcgill.ca/dementia. Thank you for watching, and happy holidays to everyone.